the image on the cover page here is focusing on the addition. The Longhouse is quite a larger structure. The existing Longhouse was built with an expansion in mind, and on the east end of the building there's a exposed log structure, post and beam log structure that was intended for the future expansion, and that's what's led to the project that we're currently looking at. And so that is the roof plan showing that area. So here we've got the comparison between the two, the existing and the new. And so the existing Longhouse with the exposed structure and the expansion, which is intended to carry the existing lines as much as possible. And the plan of the expansion area has two offices, one of which is a counselor room, a washroom and storage, corridor, of course. The main rooms are a meeting room with a multi-purpose room and an operable wall between the two, so that both could be used simultaneously if to offer flexibility. The one thing I didn't mention was that the existing facility has a water feature on the east wall, which you can kind of see here. It's right there. And the multi-purpose room that I just described opens up to that water feature area. It's a river rock base and textured water wall. And Chris from PFS will describe some of the landscape features in this area. So we looked at the way both spaces work together and also separately. So that was key to the layout. This is a comparison between the existing and the new with the roof peeled away, so you can sort of see how the spaces work. I will say that there's a unique aspect to the layout, is that the existing Longhouse has a concept where there's rooms within rooms or buildings within buildings. And so that led to, with some feedback from the original architect, to the way we've handled the split between the meeting room and the multipurpose room, which is this, it has its own kind of roof inside and a ceiling, but it's acoustic separation from the multipurpose room. But it's meant to carry that concept through into the expansion, which is space within space and that type of hierarchy. So that was quite important to the design. And here we've got the elevations. And we're fully intending on carrying through all the existing lines as much as possible. What we did do was, because the existing structure comes quite close to the library edge, that we inset the south elevation to create a little more clearance at that pinch point. And so that's how we arrived at that notch, which you can see in the plan here. Okay. So here's some closer looks at the elevation. We've got the glazed south wall. We've got more of a solid wood aesthetic on the east wall facing the water, but we've got an opening that coincides with the water feature. And then the north wall, we're carrying through the clear story glazing and using it to set up some of the plan relationships of the glass corner here. But we also have a mechanical room tucked into the corner of the space, which is right here. Important to note that the mechanical system is at capacity in the existing building, so this mechanical room serves the expansion area independently. So we've taken some photographs of some samples of the exterior aesthetic. We've got this copper-faced roof. You can see where the insulation is and where it isn't. The original architect's calling that recessed area a gutter, so it's sort of a custom gutter. And then we've got the Connier storefront, face with operable vents, which we're reusing. We're using the same system. It's changed over the years a little bit, but it's still the Conair 516 system. And they've got fairly unique details where the cap of the projecting glazing, it's almost like a strip bay window where the glazing returns back to the log structure. And we are doing that as well in certain ways, which I can explain later in the drawings. The solid parts of the exterior are shiplap siding, which we're doing exactly what you see. And they've got exposed wood, existing exposed wood posts, which we will also be doing. The difference in what we will have and what you see here is we've got a much thicker wall with more insulation requirements. And so you'll see less of the column, but we'll detail it so that we work with that type of aesthetic. That's a view of the two types of roofs. The north roof is SBS granular roof, and the copper face roof I described earlier is what you see up top here. That's another view of the north area with the clear story. So we've got another aspect to this project is we've looked at the railing of the library, and we've got a couple of images here that show that we're addressing the climbability non-conformance of the existing railing. And so we're proposing to put a perforated metal panel on the inside of the horizontal rails to eliminate the climbability aspect of the railing. Now you can see that there. And the interesting thing about that is we're proposing that all that be done with the existing railing in place. So we won't be removing the railing in that design. And so you have a view of the courtyard with the water feature, looking back at that same courtyard from the library overhang, and then the view of the mechanical room here, and the window into the access from the multipurpose room. So these are some shots of inside the multipurpose room with the divider wall open and closed. Here is the view looking towards the water feature. There's some AV infrastructure that's going to be part of the project for digital monitors on the north wall. And so here's a look back at the meeting room. And I was describing earlier how the idea of having rooms within rooms, and that's what we were working with here. So this is intended to be like a space within a space. And the larger space continues on, which is what we're trying to achieve. So with the wall closed, the meeting room is behind that. With the wall open, this space becomes accessible to the multipurpose room. So there's some additional shots of the railing in the following drawings. What we're trying to show is how the climbability helps with the pinch point here. We understand that there may be some people actually climb over and climb onto this structure at the moment. So we're trying to make this less of a ladder. But admittedly, it's a tough part of the design because we don't want to ruin the aesthetic of the whole corner here because it's quite an important spot. So we've proposed to address the climbability, focus on the climbability of the railing. So what I could do is I could go into the working drawing plans if you like, or we can skip straight to landscaping and see how much time we have left over.
Yeah, I think we'll switch to landscaping for now,
Sure.
and we can come back if there are questions.
Right.
More detailed questions.
Okay, I'll pull up the landscape plan. And Chris, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just let me know if you want me to flick from sheet to sheet.
Why don't you go to the next sheet? We'll come back to the access component at the end. So the main objective for the landscape design of the expansion primarily is the preservation and restoration in some cases where needed of the existing landscape that the existing facility is located in. That we figured is the most important aspect of the landscape treatment. And the highest order, I would say, is the preservation, protection of the existing arboretum that the entire facility is located in. I think it's called the Davidson Arboretum, and so anything that we do is going to need to ensure that all trees in the arboretum are protected. So that's at the top of the list. Another element of preservation and protection is the existing water feature, and it will remain basically untouched, and so any disturbance to it during the course of the construction will need to be restored and basically restored to its current configuration. Another element that's important for the preservation is the toe of the existing north slope, which is a forested slope that kind of defines a bit of a backdrop to the space. And what's going to happen is a little bit of the toe of that slope is going to have to be peeled back to make room for the footprint of the expansion. And so we've got preservation and retention measures that we can employ along that edge to make sure that forested slope is maintained and protected. So if we were to just look at the expansion itself, I think it's fair to say that there are really two primary spaces. The first would be the front space, or the front of house, and that's the space that you encounter when you come down from the library out through the library plaza. And so some of the improvements include a widened walkway from the west, the main doors of the Longhouse, headed towards the library. It's widened to about 2 meters from a previous dimension of roughly 1 meter, or 1,200. There's also an additional paved area, which is along the front of the multi-purpose room. It's a space that fronts the water feature as well. In this case, in this one particular space, we're also addressing the retention of the toe of the slope in a way that is in keeping with a lot of the other slope retentions of the project, with the use of boulders that can be planted with ferns and native ground covers, with the intent of really echoing the character and the appeal of the existing landscape for this space especially. And what it means is that this space really reads as the main front of house, if you like, and a public space, really. Some additional features include one large feature boulder which can be used for seating that engages that walkway, and a fairly subtle but rich border of irises that will kind of create a bit of a screen between the walkway and the water feature, and it also is symbolic of water. So we think it's a nice planting touch to that space. Now, the second space, the second of the two spaces, which you could say is the back of house, is really a maintenance space. And so that's, as you head, the cursor is showing, as you head around the corner of the expansion along the north edge, it's primarily a maintenance space with access to the mechanical room, and then a river rock strip that passes along the north side of the building, which again is really for maintenance access of the facade of the building. So the paving treatment there is intentionally a coarse river rock surface, which really is not easy to walk on, and sends a signal that it's not really a place for the public to walk, as well as the means of retaining the toe of slope that is going to be peeled back a little bit is more basic and utilitarian. It's a timber wall, which again sends a message that this is not the public space with a lot of character. It's really a back of house space, and is really meant to be diminished in its character and its appeal and as a space to activate. I think that's a really important differentiation in the two spaces. That pretty much sums up the treatment around the expansion. With regards to the Arboretum, maybe if we flip back Art to the first page, we have a plan for the rest of the site, and it includes a temporary construction access route. And we studied a couple different routes, and we found that this made the most sense. What it'll entail is full protection of the Arboretum, so fencing all around it, so no construction activities can spill out beyond this main route. The fencing also includes all other edges as well, so that, again, no activities can get into the Arboretum. This route utilizes part of existing paved walkway that means we can run the road through there without damaging the Arboretum at all. The remainder of it is going to have to be a detail that is going to have to be endorsed by the university and the arborist, with tree protection fencing either side and probably a resilient surface, bark mulch perhaps, up to a foot thick, maybe as needed really to protect the root zones of the trees, as well as any other aerial protection of trees is also going to need to be employed. This route again makes the most sense in terms of limiting the impact on the site. It also preserves existing pedestrian patterns of movement from West Mall down to Lower Mall. The access pedestrian wise to the front doors will be decommissioned during the course of the construction, although there could be some temporary access across there as needed. As well, access down through the library to the front doors is more a question. We're not sure that, I mean, that needs to be closed off as construction activities are undergone, but whether we can shut it off entirely is something that we're not sure about. So that's a question we also would have to the campus. So that's pretty much it from a tree preservation measure and also from a landscape improvement standpoint. That would be the scope.